Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts, and this is Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, January 8th, 2019. I hope everyone's getting back into the groove of the new year and going back to your regular routines. The holidays are gone. Even though we have little holidays coming up, we're kind of smooth sailing until we get to the end of the year. It's like that big Thanksgiving, Christmas rush. It's always, for us, that's always, I feel like, the biggest pressure of the year. And once all that's gone, then it's like, it's smooth sailing. We can get back into our normal routines, work on different projects, celebrate small holidays as they come. Project that I worked on this past weekend was this is the variation of a disappearing 9 patch that I'm making for my husband. I figure as he's going through the chemo and probably going for more hospital stays, and he's always cold now, so he might need a little bit of a lap quilt. He's already got a blanket that I made him several years ago, I think maybe 9 years now. I have several yards of this plain old New York Giants football fabric that's upside down. And for his blanket, he wanted that microfiber, floofy, soft, warm fleece stuff. It's a mottled, marbled, little bit variegated blue that matches this beautifully. And that's what he loves to sleep with. He likes to have the cotton on one side because it's nice and cool to the touch, and then he can flip it over and he can have the warmth of the fleece on the other side. But I thought that's way too big because I believe I bought...
I probably bought a yard and a half maybe, because what's a yard? What? Yard is 3 feet, so I bought maybe 2 yards. Yeah, 2 yards is 6 feet. So
what I did at the time is I bought 2 yards of the microfiber blue fleece, and I purchased... You can only purchase 5 yards at a time of this Giants fabric. And then I ended up purchasing again somewhere else because it was a really good sale, and I figured he loves the Giants, I can always use it. Plus his brother loves the Giants. So I actually had at one point 10 yards of this fabric. But I did the whole stitch around the blanket, flip it and all that. So I thought he loves that for around the house and everything. But let's just make him something small that'll be easier to carry and snuggle up with, and for when he's in the chemo chair and all that. So I've got this done. I've actually had to... This was an ordeal, guys. This was an ordeal. I've sewed it and unstitched it, seam ripped it, and sewed it too many times. I'm going to have to be careful with the seams and the quilting. It's a good thing it's for him because I'm a little concerned with some of the seams on this blue cloud-like fabric. And some of this, it's hard to tell. You can't see that some of these are the actual back of the blue fabric. They're just slightly a little bit lighter in color, but you can't tell. I had a hard time telling when I was stitching it until I actually started putting the blocks together, and I said forget it, it's close enough. You don't really notice that it's the back of the fabric, and hubby's not going to notice, and no one else will notice, just, you know, you and I will know. And then so I made my 9 patches, right? And then you cut them in half this way, and you cut them in half this way, and you do these flippies, right? So I went through the whole process, made all my 9 patches one day. I had set them all out nice and neat on the table here, and then I went to bed. And while it's not a surprise to hubby, I didn't want him to see it until it was completely done, at least, you know, the top part of it. So then I put them over, and the next morning I took them off the table and I put them in my sewing chair while hubby was walking the halls and, you know, using the restroom and showering and everything. And I managed to sew them back together into the 9 patch. Because as I was doing it, I'm like, hey, this is really weird. This center square, you know, it was working out because I had the Giants as the 5 to make the X. So the center square kept going back together really nice. So instead of having a 9 patch at this size, I had a 9 patch at this size. I sewn the sucker right back together exactly the way it was. So I had to unrip all those seams out of 11 blocks that I'd made, put them together again, make sure I flipped them all the right way, and then I started stitching it together, and I held it up to hubby, and it was too big. So I had to take a whole row off there, and it was too narrow, and I already knew that. So then I just took, because the 9 patch is 3 sections, I just took the right half when you cut it, and you know, and I just stitched that down as a partial. So where I could have had 2 chunks, I only put 1, and I stitched that down. And I caught myself in time because I almost stitched it to the wrong side of the blanket. Yes, I had to put it over here. It It was a turmoil. It was a process. You know, some days, no matter whether you've got your head on straight or not, sometimes things just get mixed up. I tend to have issues when I start one day and stop and go into the next day. Sometimes I forget what I was doing or what I thought I was going to be doing, and I do it wrong. So, but then I got it all together, and I think it looks kind of cool. I really like the way it looks. I showed hubby, and he's like, I'm like, okay, well, he doesn't feel good. I'll give him that consideration, and maybe he just doesn't like it. So, my plan anyways was to take this fabric and put it on the back. So if he decides that this is just too wild and crazy for him, because he's not a complicated man, he likes things plain and simple. He'd have been happy if I took 2 pieces of this giant fabrics, stitched it together, quilted it, and called it a day. But I kind of wanted something nice for him, you know? So I'll put the giants on the back and I'll quilt it, and he can have it on this side, or you can put it on the reverse side when he's snuggling up with it, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Because that's sometimes how things are. Sometimes we make things the way we think we would like them, or someone else might like them, but when we don't check with them and we want to surprise them, and they just sometimes just don't like things. But I really like it. I really like it. I would have liked it better if I had a red square to put in the center, so when it'd have the little red accent and all the little squares going up on the diagonal. But I didn't have any red, and it's okay because I think that might have even been too much for him. So I have it as it is. I'm definitely not changing anything again. I'm going to go ahead and I ordered some batting for it. I'll get it all quilted up together for him, and whenever he does want it or he doesn't want it, totally up to him, he'll have something. Because if you've ever known anyone to go through chemo or anything to do with the doctor's office or hospital, you know it's cold all the time in those places. They have to keep it cold to keep the germs down. So he'll have something to snuggle up in. And if not, the cats will have a new quilt because the cats love to snuggle up. We have one cat, Miss Whiskers. You saw her on the blanket last week, and she's Daddy's girl. She just loves to lay in his bed. She's the only one allowed in his room. I'm picking at threads here. She's the only one allowed in his room, so she'll snuggle up on it. She won't mind. And that's really kind of like all I did this week. A lot of behind the scenes stuff. I had a lot of paperwork, you know, making doctor's appointments, and you got to fill out. Okay, so hubby's got the cancer specialist he's going to be going to. They have a, you go to the website and you print out the new patient paperwork and stuff. It was 15 pages long. 15 pages long. And it wasn't even that much. It was questions. It was more of, I think he signed that more than he signed the papers when we bought this house. There was a lot of things to sign. It was crazy. But I guess they know what they're doing and they need to cover their ass and stuff, so. The other thing I did get done this week is I've got all of my jelly roll strips, my 2.5-inch strips. I went ahead and I got them all cut, and I will be getting them into the mail as soon as possible. I'm sure I'll be going to the post office within the next week, if not sooner. And I'll get these all in the mail to Jennifer, and it's going to be so exciting. I have several ideas in my head that I want to see about. I'll wait and see what everyone else sends for their jelly roll strips, and then decide which quilt I want to make, and whether I want to make it for someone else or for myself. But while I had all my fabrics out and I was cutting my strips, I went ahead and cut an extra strip out of each color to keep for myself here, so that when y'all's jelly roll strips come in, I can still add in more of my fabric too, because I'm going to figure that once we send them out, we're going to be getting different strips in than we get, or maybe one of ours or something like that, and however it works. But this way I'll have one of everything that I sent out to y'all, so I can have it in my quilt too. And that's it for me this week, guys. I'm looking forward to watching everyone's videos. It's the beginning of the year, and it seems to be a lot of quilt-alongs starting up, and everyone seems to be joining into something or another. So it's going to be fun to see what everyone is working on. You guys have a great day. Bye.